Confucius. And bright virtue as benevolence. Tien Cong Tran, Ph.D. Chapter 1. Bright virtue as benevolence. Section 1. What is benevolence? Among things to which we have relation, there are men. In order that a man appears as man, we must see, besides his body, heaven, earth, spirit, God in him. How can we have relation to a man as if he is the place of the appearance of heaven, earth, spirit, God? That way is, according to Confucius, benevolence. Man must imitate the way of heaven, earth, spirit, God. The way of heaven, earth, spirit, God is called heavenly way. Heavenly way is to make a thing appear as thing or that thing appear as a chalice. The way of man or human way is to imitate heavenly way. Human way is the way according to which we behave with a man as man or let a man appear as man. But, as it is said in the doctrine of the mean, in order to know man, he may not dispense with the knowledge of heaven. To know heaven is to know heavenly way. To know heavenly way is to know how to let a thing appear as thing. Human way resides in benevolence. Benevolence is the way we let a man appear as man, not as animal, for example. Human way is heavenly way that is specially applied to the relation between a man and a man. Heaven way lets a thing appear as thing, human way lets, imitating heavenly way, a man appears as man. How is it possible to let a man appear as man? Benevolence is the way by which a man relates to a man as man. When we consider a man as he is, we use the word love to describe our attitude. Therefore, benevolence is loving men. When Fan Chi asked about benevolence, the master said, loving men. To love men, first we have to know men. As we have said, according to Confucius, the essence of man resides in his relation to the way. A true man is a man who has attained the way. A man who has attained the way is a man who no longer lives in fallenness and forgets the way. When Yan Yuan asked about benevolence, the master said, to restrain oneself and return to propriety is benevolence. Propriety indicates the way. To restrain oneself is no more living in fallenness or forgetting the way. The way is heaven, earth, spirit, God. Heaven, earth, spirit, God is the domain in which a thing appears as it is, in its essence. Fallenness indicates man's immersion in the material world. This immersion is desire. Desire is craving for material things. To restrain oneself or asceticism is to subdue one's desire and return to the way as a reality different from material things. To attain the way is to know and realize heaven, earth, spirit, God in oneself, in others and in things. Benevolence is attaining the way, regarding the relation between man and man. Benevolence is knowledge and realization of heaven, earth, spirit, God in oneself and in others. We often understand that benevolence is loving men. To love men is to let men be men. To let men be men is to let men be the place of the appearance of heaven, earth, spirit, God. If men are living in fallenness, to love them is to bring them back to heaven, earth, spirit, God, or to make them become the place of appearance of heaven, earth, spirit, God. The Analects says, Only a benevolent man is capable of loving men and capable of hating men. But how to love men? Benevolence begins with filial piety and brotherly obedience. The Analects says, the superior man applies himself to the roots. Only when the roots are well planted will the way grow. Filial piety and brotherly obedience are perhaps the roots of benevolence, are they not? Section 2. Benevolence through a number of statements. Confucius answered to numerous questions about benevolence. Each answer stands at a different situation and expresses some aspect of benevolence, but they unite in one root. This root is the way or heaven earth spirit God. 1. What you do not like when done to yourself, do not do to others. Benevolence is based on the principle, what you do not like when done to yourself, do not do to others. This principle seems to be negative. But in a thorough study it is positive. If we avoid what should not be done, what should be done remains. The important point is to be a true man. We want to be true men and so others should be true men. And we know that, according to Confucius, what makes a true man is the way or heaven earth spirit God. The way is to make a thing appear as thing. So, to apply the above-mentioned principle, we should have a clear knowledge of the way. To have a clear knowledge of the way is a very difficult task. However, the way is always in our heart, or a man has conscience. Therefore, Confucius tells us to behave according to conscience. The above-mentioned principle can be applied even when knowledge of the way is not clear yet. Confucius worried much about the task of brightening the way. But he knew it was a difficult task. We can guess that he went through numerous thoughts to find out that principle. After more than 20 centuries, the famous philosopher Kant discovered the same principle. Benevolence is based on the equality between men, every man should be a true man. 2. When Tien Cong asked about benevolence, the master said, go outside as if you were receiving a great guest, employ the people as if you were assisting in a great sacrifice. What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others. Here the principle what you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others is explained as receiving a great guest and assisting in a great sacrifice. So, a man is a great guest and receiving a man is assisting in a great sacrifice. That is to show esteem and respect for a man. Why do we need to show esteem and respect for a man? For a man is a place where heaven and earth unite, and spirit and God meet. Heaven earth is a great guest and spirit God is a great sacrifice. If heaven earth spirit God indicates a divine domain, we can define a man as a holy animal. Because a man is a holy animal, he should be met as a great guest, and we should come to him as to a god. The definition man is a holy animal can be put in comparison with the definitions man is a reasonable animal and man is a thinking reed. To speak of reason is to speak of capacity of thinking. If thinking is understood as thinking the way, reasonable animal is not different from holy animal. However, if thinking is understood as thinking material things, reasonable animal is totally different from holy animal. In Western philosophy, where reasonable animal was born. Reason is understood as capacity of thinking, and this thinking does not think the way as heaven earth spirit God. Therefore, it can be said that reasonable animal is not holy animal. If a man is a holy animal, he cannot become an offering to gods. Today a man becomes a laboring or producing animal. Labor is victorious. To become a laboring animal, man must be instructed. Man is not educated to know the way or to become a holy animal. Man is educated to become a laboring animal. Holy is in the domain of the way. Labor is in the domain of material things. If the essence of man resides in his relation to the way, a laboring animal is not a true man. A laboring animal is not bad, but if man is only a laboring animal and nothing else, man is not true man. Even though man must work, but man must return to his holiness. The Analects has this statement: a superior man is not a utensil. Man is not a utensil. A laboring animal is a utensil. A laboring animal is not a superior man or a true man. A superior man is a man of the way. 3. When Zuchang asked Confucius about benevolence, the master said, "To be able to practice 5 things in the whole world constitutes benevolence. Please tell what they are." The master said, "Respectfulness, generosity, truthfulness, diligence, and kindness. Be respectful and you will not be treated with disrespect. Be generous and you will win all hearts. Be truthful and people will trust you. Be diligent and you will be successful. Be kind and you will be capable to employ people." Benevolence is respectfulness. Respectfulness arises because of the knowledge that man is a holy animal. If you are respectful to others, they will be respectful to you. If you consider others as men, they will consider you as man. Generosity is lenience. Jesus said about love of enemies: "To love relatives or comrades is easy, but to love enemies is difficult." In daily life there are numerous ill-speaking and harsh words. Confucius did not like them. Jesus said the same thing: "Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own eye?" Benevolence is truthfulness. Truthfulness is belief in truth. And truth is the way. Being truthful is seeing the way in one's own heart and behaving towards others according to that way. Being untruthful is being astray from the way. If you follow the way, you will get trust. There is this fact: people, even thought they live daily in fallenness, love the way. The voice of conscience is always somehow present in people's hearts, except those who have lost all conscience or become non-human animals. Diligence is permanent worry for the way. Confucius tried to teach the way all his life. Diligence brings achievements. How great Confucius' achievement is, it has gone through many centuries, and it will continue. Kindness is bringing the way into life. We should remember that the way is the middle, mean, and the middle is the harmony between the way and material things. The way does not deny things, the way wants only things must contain the way. Man needs things as well as the way. To be kind is to want to bring the way and things to people, to bring the way to the place lacking the way, to bring things to the place lacking things, and to bring both the way and things to the place lacking both the way and things. Who does not, in his true heart, like such a way? For the wise delight in water, the benevolent delight in mountains. The wise are active, the benevolent are still. The wise live happy, the benevolent live long. Wisdom and benevolence belong to the way, but the statement seems to express a difference between wisdom and benevolence. The man of wisdom is delightful in water, active and happy. Water flows incessantly and penetrates all things. The man of wisdom helps all things and feels happy. The man of benevolence is delightful in mountains, still and long-lived. Mountains stand above and still to see all things rise and grow, while all things rise then die and die then rise. Mountains stand still there. The way has both qualities of wisdom and benevolence. The way appears in aspects that seem to be contrary. The way is both still and active. Regarding its nature, the way seems to be still because it is always the same. Regarding its use, the way seems to be active because it always helps things in a happy manner. 5. Those who know the way are not equal to those who love it. Those who love it are not equal to those who delight in it. Knowing the way is the necessary first step, but loving it leads to practice of it. But delight in it leads to constant practice of it and never abandonment of it. There is this statement, knowledge and practice go together. The statement is right, but this knowledge is so profound that it knows the preciousness of the way, the knowledge that embraces both love of the way and delight in it. Knowledge has numerous grades because the way itself has numerous grades. Knowledge in the statement does not denote such a profound one. 6. Is benevolence a remote thing? If I want benevolence, there comes it. Benevolence is the way. The statement arose from a profound acknowledgement of the way. The way is not far from man. The way resides in man. Confucius sees that the way always resides in man. Wood only does not make a bridge, there must be something else, and this something else is called the way. The body only does not make a man, there must be something else, and this something else is called the way or benevolence or spirit, soul. So, Confucius sees the twofold in a thing, there is material and there is the way. Material, wood, body, plus the way make a thing, bridge, man. There is one thing, but there are two different realities. When we see a thing, we see at the same time two different realities. The appearance of the way to man is a daily fact. Therefore, it is possible to say that the way is not a remote thing, and if we want it, there it comes. In fact, the way always already comes to us. If we do not see it, this is because we do not pay attention to it. Therefore, if we pay attention to or want it, it will appear clearly to us. The statement "the way is not a remote thing" contradicts the ordinary explanation that the way is some element that constitutes the universe. That element, that substance, does not have any relation to man. Such an element, such a substance does not daily appear to man or to Confucius. Because it does not appear to Confucius, he does not know it at all. And Confucius speaks only of what is true, he does not speak of what he does not know. The statement "the way is not a remote thing" can cause a usual explanation that the way is in man. If we investigate man, we will find the way, and even an explanation that the way is created by man or mind is the way. A thing is outside man, and the way is inside man. Philosophy of things directs towards outside, and Confucius thought of the way directs towards inside. But such an interpretation does not penetrate the depth of Confucius' thought. The way is not remote, but it is neither inside man nor outside man, and moreover it is not created by man. Inside and outside talk about things, and the way is not a thing. Therefore, if we use in or inside, we should think only that inside, indicates that the way is not remote, far from man. Mind does not create the way. Mind can relate to things, material, as well as to the way. The way surpasses mind. That is why Confucius calls the way heaven, heaven's order. Confucius teaches so that mind becomes the place of the appearance of the way, he does not teach so that mind creates the way. There is not a mind that contains the way, and when we see that mind, we see the way. The way is not something that already lies in mind, and when we look inside mind, we find the way. 7. Staunchness, endurance, simplicity, and reticence are close to benevolence. People tend to love profit and women more than the way. Therefore, following the way needs staunchness and endurance. Simplicity is little attachment to material things. Children do not much attach to things, they are simpler than adults are. Simple is also naive. Tiny attachment to things is near to the way. Jesus says that if we want to enter the kingdom of heaven, we should become children. The way is difficult to understand and to talk about. Therefore reticence is near to the way. 8. Sweet words and a polished appearance have indeed little benevolence in them. To use sweet words is to aim at profit. Pleasing appearance is to pay attention to this world. Profit and this world do not go together with the way. 9. The Master said, "Hui is one whose heart, for 3 months, does not depart from benevolence. The rest can only attain to this in a day or in a month, that is all." The way is difficult to follow. In Jesus' words, the way is the narrow gate, and this world is the wide one. But according to Confucius as well as Jesus, the way is life, and this world is death, life understood as being a true man and death as not being a true man. The narrow gate leads to life and the wide one leads to death. Let us call the material world this shore and the way the other shore. Men swing from this shore to the other shore and from the other shore to this shore. That a person stays at the other shore for a long time or for a short time depends on the level of his knowledge of the way. When he was enlightened, the Buddha stayed at the other shore and was not reborn to this shore anymore. Section 3. Benevolence and righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and faithfulness. Benevolence is loving men. What you do not wish for yourself, do not impose it to others. That is the way. That is the main point. To detail the main point, we have righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and faithfulness. 1. Righteousness. Righteousness denotes appropriation. Appropriate with what? Appropriate, in its utmost end, is appropriate with benevolence. So, righteousness is used to describe actions that are appropriate with benevolence. Appropriate is right or correct. Confucius seldom talks about righteousness, and he does not use righteousness with benevolence. Mencius talks a lot about righteousness, and he often uses benevolence and righteousness together. Mencius said, "Benevolence is man's mind, and righteousness is man's path." Man's mind is benevolence. The path to practice benevolence is righteousness. Benevolence is loving men and righteousness is the practice of benevolence or loving men, that is letting a man appear as man. After it is known so, we still need to take correct actions. How do we know that we take correct actions? 2. Propriety. Propriety denotes harmony. Yudza said, in the application of the rules of propriety, harmony is most valuable. The Master said, respectfulness without propriety is laboriousness, carefulness without propriety is timidity, courage without propriety is rebelliousness, straightforwardness without propriety is harshness. When Yen Yuan asked about benevolence, the Master said, to restrain oneself and return to propriety constitutes benevolence. One day one can restrain oneself and return to propriety, the whole world will return to benevolence. Yen Yuan said, may I ask the main steps of the practice? The Master replied, do not look at what is contrary to propriety, do not listen to what is contrary to propriety, do not speak what is contrary to propriety, do not do what is contrary to propriety. So, according to Confucius, propriety defines the domain in which people must behave and the direction people must follow to attain to benevolence. Propriety shows respect of men. Man is worthy of respect because he is a holy animal, place of the appearance of heaven earth spirit God. When Tien Cong asked about benevolence, the Master said, go outside as if you were receiving a great guest, employ the people as if you were assisting in a great sacrifice. What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others. Thus, there is no resentment against you in the state, and none in the family. Propriety is more valuable in spirit than in material. The Master said, they say propriety, propriety, do they merely refer to jade and silk? They say music, music, do they merely refer to bells and drums? 3. Wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge is, in its utmost depth, is knowledge of benevolence. When Fan Chi asked about benevolence, the Master said, loving men. When he asked about wisdom, the Master said, knowing men. Fan Chi did not quite understand. The Master said, promote the upright, place them above the crooked, and you will make the crooked upright. Fan Chi retired and, seeing Zheshata, said, the Master said, promote the upright, place them above the crooked, and you will make the crooked upright. What does it mean? Zhu Shao said, how rich is his saying. When Shun was in possession of the empire, he selected from the multitude and promoted Gao Yao. Thus, the unbenevolent left him. When Tang was in possession of the empire, he selected from the multitude and promoted Yi Yin. Thus, unbenevolent men left him. For faithfulness, faithful is trustworthy, not lying. Faithful about what? Faithful is, in its utmost depth, faithful with men about benevolence. Faithfulness in benevolence is what you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others. Faithfulness is the condition of success in life. The Master said, if a man is not truthful, I do not know how he can get along. A big cart without the hinges, or a small cart without the pins, how can one make it run? Section 4. The origin of benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and truthfulness. The origin of benevolence is a very important problem. Do the sages or society invent benevolence and then teach us to follow it? Or does benevolence arise in our heart? If the sages or society invent benevolence, we are free to follow it or not. Benevolence has nothing concerning us. It is like a utensil, if we like it, we use it, and if we do not like it, we do not take it home. But if benevolence arises in our heart, if it is, like the body, a part of us, how can we neglect it? Confucius says that benevolence resides in man. The Master said, the way is not far from man. If man follows the way that is far from man, that cannot be considered the way. So the way or benevolence resides in man's heart, they are not created by Confucius or society. The Master said, is benevolence a remote thing? If I want benevolence, there comes it. Mencius talks much about the origin in man's heart of benevolence and righteousness. Cao Tzu, a disciple of Mencius, says that man's nature does not make a distinction between good and evil, in the same way water can flow to the east or to the west. Mencius says that water flows downwards, in the same way nobody is born to be evil. According to Mencius, man's nature is good. He said, the heart of commiseration belongs to all men, so does that of shame and dislike, and that of reverence and respect, and that of righteousness and wrongness. The heart of commiseration belongs to benevolence, that of shame and dislike belongs to righteousness, that of reverence and respect belongs to propriety, that of righteousness and wrongness belongs to knowledge. Benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and knowledge are not infused to us from without, we certainly possess them. People think that barley is the same in nature, although they may be inequalities when they grow up because of different climates and soils. Why should we doubt in regard of men? Some are good, and some are evil. Everybody praises Yi Ya about his taste, everybody praises Shi Kuang about his music, everybody recognizes that Tzu too was beautiful. All mouths have the same relishes, all ears are like one another, so are all eyes. So why are minds not similar? Minds of men approve the principles of reasoning and the determinations of righteousness. Chu Tzu said to Mencius, Master, the king sent persons to spy out what you were really different other men. Mencius said, How could I be different from other men? Yao and Shun were just the same as other men. Thus, all things which are the same in kind are like to one another. Why should we doubt regarding man, as if he were a solitary exception to this? The sage and we are the same kind. If minds are similar, why are some good and some evil? According to Mencius, because they are differently cultivated. Mind recognizes benevolence and righteousness. But man does not possess only mind. Man also has senses. Senses contact the material world. They have their own desires for the material world. These desires are able not to go together with benevolence and righteousness. Therefore, they can cover up conscience. The Master said, by nature, people are close to one another. Through practice, they drift far apart. Mencius takes for example a mountain with beautiful trees. The woodcutters hewed them down. They were still able to grow up. But then came the cattle and goats. The mountain became bare. Those who do not know the past of the mountain can think that it is naturally bare. In the same way, benevolence and righteousness lie already in man's heart. Desires and worldly dusts cover them up. People mistake that man's heart does not possess benevolence and righteousness. When the sun has gone down and worldly dusts calm down, when the night comes, the feeling of benevolence and righteousness can arise, and people see benevolence and righteousness again. But until a certain moment this feeling is not sufficient to raise man's heart. At that moment men become not much different from the irrational animals. This is also an example of fallenness of human condition. Section 5. Shame as feeling of conscience. The way always appears to man, man always has some comprehension of the way. This comprehension can be called conscience or common sense. Conscience is knowledge of the good, the way is good. Mencius says, the knowledge possessed without the exercise of thought is conscience. To express the naturally or inborn knowledge in man, Mencius continues, children carried in the arm all know to love their parents, and when they are grown, they all know to respect their elder brothers. Filial piety for parents is benevolence. Respect for elders is righteousness. There is no other reason, these two feelings belong to all under heaven. Conscience is natural knowledge of the way or goodness. To know goodness is to know the distinction between good and evil. If there is good, there must be evil. According to Confucius as well as Mencius, the feeling of the distinction between good and evil is shame. According to Mencius, shame is a very important feeling of man. He who does not know shame is different from other men, and being different from other men, he is no longer a man. Mencius said, the sense of shame is to a man of great importance. Those who form contrivances and versatile schemes distinguished for their artfulness, do not allow their sense of shame to come into action. When one differs from other men in not having this sense of shame, what will he have in common with them? In the Analects, shame is the sense of distinction between good and evil and thus directs man's action. The Master said, the reason that the ancients would not rashly utter words is that they deemed it shameful not to live up to them. Talking but not doing, that is untruthful, contrary to the way. Being contrary to the way is feeling shameful. When Su Ma Niu asked about the superior man, the Master said, the superior man is free from anxiety and fear. Su Ma Su asked, to be free from anxiety and fear, is that enough to be called a superior man? The Master replied, since, in inward examination, he is not shameful, what anxiety and fear does he have? The way, and not material, constitutes the essence of man. Therefore, if one does not do anything contrary to the way, what else can be a worry for him? Zhe Kung asked, what must a man be like to be called a scholar? The Master said, in conducting himself, he has a sense of shame. When dispatched to the various states as envoy, he does not fail the sovereign's mission. Such a man may be called a scholar. A scholar, even he is not equal to a superior man, should take shame as foundation of his conduct. When Chen asked about shame, the Master said, when the state possesses the way, you draw an official's salary. When the state loses the way, you draw an official's salary. It is a shame. According to Confucius, a superior man serves a king who possesses the way, not a king who loses the way. That official serves a king who possesses the way as well as a king who loses the way. He takes salary or profit as foundation of his conduct. It is a shame. If you govern them with decrees and regulate them with punishments, the people will evade them but will have no sense of shame. If you govern them with virtue and regulate them with the rules of propriety, they will have a sense of shame and flock to you. Shame lies in the way and not in law. The role of law is very limited. People become good due to the way, they do not become good due to law. Section 6. The origin of the way and the twofold. Mencius tries to prove that the way resides in a man's heart when he is born. A man is born with a good nature. Even with Mencius' effort, the problem of good nature is a dilemma and the discussion continues. Some following Mencius say that human nature is good, some say that human nature is evil, and some say that human nature is neither good nor evil. We have said that there are two realities appearing to man, the way and material. The way appears and brings with it goodness, honesty, and justice. Material appears and brings with it evil, dishonesty and lie. Man always stands in front of and relates to those two realities. Because he relates to those two realities, man always has some knowledge of goodness and evil. Even man tends to follow evil. He values good more than evil and considers the way and justice more precious than material and lie. Even when he does an evil thing, he thinks goodness is better than evil, but he chooses evil because evil brings more profit. Therefore, regarding value, man loves the way more than profit, material. But regarding desire, man is greedier for profit than for the way. good nature is founded on the way and evil nature is founded on profit. Man is born standing in front of those two realities and two natures. However, because even an evil man realizes that goodness is more valuable than evil, we can say that human nature is good, good nature is valuable to all under heaven. Section 7. Heaven's Order. Mencius said, "He who penetrates the depth of his mind knows his nature. Knowing his nature, he knows heaven." To preserve one's mind, to nourish one's nature is the way to serve heaven. According to the usual interpretation, heaven is the Lord of the universe. Heaven has a powerful will to regulate the change and transformation of the universe in a harmony. That will of heaven is heaven's order. Heaven's order is also called God's order. God is the Lord of all things. God is the Creator and commands all things. Heaven or God can be thought as one who has image, feelings, and desires like ours. Heaven or God can be thought as formless, very wonderful, very powerful principle that determines the change and transformation beyond any resistance. Heaven's order or God's order indicates the predetermined will of God or formless principle. In principle, man cannot resist against that will. Only when a man practices virtuous things, he has a chance to change God's will. At that time human determination prevails over heaven's determination. Indeed, Confucius does not aim at speaking of heaven's order according to the above-mentioned meaning. Heaven is the image of the way. Heaven's order is the way's order. The way is in man. Heaven's order or the way's order is the way of man or human way. Heaven's order or heavenly way aims at saying that the way is by birth in man's heart. The way is already present in man and not created by man or by Confucius or by any sage. Heavenly way does not aim at denoting God's way or formless principle. The word heaven in heaven's order causes the rising of the misunderstanding that the order of God commands human action, something like, when a strand of hair falls, it is also God's decision. If it is so, we do not have anything to do, everything is already determined. But to advise man to do good things and avoid evil things, people think that if you make virtuous things, you can change God's will. So, everything is predetermined, but everything is not predetermined. And people fall into perplexity. Sometimes everything is predetermined and sometimes everything is not predetermined. The word heaven in heaven's order aims at saying that the order is not created by man. The order aims at indicating the command, the path to be followed or the way. Man brings in himself the order or the way he must follow. What is this order? It is heaven's order. Therefore heaven expresses the order man must follow. Man has not to follow any order he creates. Man tends to like freedom. Freedom is often understood as self-determination. Confucius says that the order must be heaven's order. Heaven's order is the order in the sphere of heaven, earth, spirit, God. Is this order contrary to the freedom of man? If heaven's order is understood as the order issued by God, it is of course contrary to the freedom of man. Even if God is infinite, if he obliges us to follow him, we lose our freedom, of course. God, who reigns in some formless sphere, issues the order and obliges us to follow it. That means he wants to take away from us our self-determination. And at that time man can revolt against God. Man does not need the order of anyone, including God. Nietzsche declares, God is dead. That is the end of the order of the Lord. But Confucius does not understand heaven's order as an order that comes from without into man and obliges man to follow it. According to Confucius, the way is not far from man. Heaven's order is the order that, even though not created by man, is always present in man. When he lives in fallenness, man does not acknowledge that way. When he is awakened, man acknowledges that way. So, the problem becomes when he lives in fallenness or when he is awakened, is man considered free? When he lives in fallenness, man sinks in the material world or follows the order of desire. When he is awakened, man lives in the world of the way or follows the order of the way. So, is man considered free when he follows the order of desire or when he follows the order of the way? What is freedom? To be free means to be oneself. When is one oneself? When one hears the voice in his heart to know how to be oneself. This voice is the voice of conscience or the way and not the voice of desire. Therefore, heaven's order is the first and last freedom. Section 8. Father, son, husband, wife, brother, brother, king, official, and friend, friend. How can we apply the axiom, what you do not wish for yourself, do not do it to others? Confucius sees 5 main relations in society: relation between father and son, relation between husband and wife, relation between brother and brother, relation between king and official, and relation between friend and friend. A father and son. One father towards son. The father's obligation towards his son is seldom talked about. That is perhaps because the father's love of his son is natural. The father's love of his son is called kindness. The Great Learning quotes a saying in the Book of Poetry about King when, as a father, he rested in kindness. To son towards father. The son's obligation towards his father is called filial piety. Filial piety is the most important obligation of benevolence. Mencius says, of services, which is the greatest? The service of parents is the greatest. A son must feed his parents. But mere feeding is not sufficient, because an animal is also fed. A son must revere his parents. You asked about filial piety. The master said, nowadays filial piety merely means being able to feed one's parents. Even dogs and horses are being fed. Without reverence, how can you tell the difference? A son must not be far from his parents. The master said, when your parents are alive, do not travel far. If you travel, be sure your destination should be known. The master said, in serving your parents, be gentle in dissuasion. Seeing that they are not inclined to comply, remain reverent and do not abandon your purpose. Though weary, be not resentful. A kind of reverence is to continue the Father's way. The master said, when his father is alive, he observes his intention, when his father is dead, he observes his deeds. If for 3 years he does not change his father's way, he may be said to be filial. One needs to have children to maintain the continuity of the family line. No posterity is considered unfilial. Therefore, King Shun married without informing his parents, because he knew if he asked them, they would deny his marriage. King Shun was an example of utmost filial piety. Ku Sao was his father. In his 50 years of age, Shun did not please his father's heart. Therefore, even with the kingdom, being the richest in the world, with beautiful maids around, he was sorrowful and resented himself because he could not make his father content. In his 50 years of age, King Shun still loved his parents as he did in his childhood. He revered his father so much that each time he visited his father he walked on tiptoe. Therefore, even stubborn, Ku Sao finally changed and conformed to his son's virtue. He who does not love his parents, or his children does not love other people. Straightness lies in love. The Duke of Shi said to Confucius, in my native village, there is a man nicknamed Straight Body. When his father stole a sheep, he bore witness against him. The master said, in my native village, straight people are different from this man, father conceals for son and son conceals for father. Straightness lies therein. Be brother and brother. Brotherly obedience is respect of an elder brother. Filial piety and brotherly obedience are the beginning of benevolence. Therefore, a man has, to be a true man, to nourish filial piety and brotherly obedience. The Analects says, the superior man bends his attention to the roots. Only when the roots are well planted will the way grow. Are filial piety and brotherly obedience not the roots of benevolence? The Mencius says, the richest fruit of benevolence is this, the service of one's parents. The richest fruit of righteousness is this, the obeying one's elder brothers. The richest fruit of wisdom is this, the knowing those two things, and not departing from them. The richest fruit of propriety is this, the ordering and adorning those two things. The richest fruit of music is this, the rejoicing in those two things. King Shun was also an example of brotherly love. He had a step-brother named Shang. Once Ku Sao made Shun dig a well. When he was in the bottom of the well, Ku Sao and Shang covered him up. Thinking that Shun was dead, Shang said, of the scheme to cover up Shun, the merit was mine, his oxen, sheep, storehouses, and granaries would belong to parents, his shield, spear, lute, bow, and his 2 wives would be mine. But when Shang went into Shun's palace, there was Shun on his couch playing on his lute. Shang said, I was thinking anxiously about you. Shun said, these are all my officers, do you take government of them for me? Shun pretended that he did not know the scheme. To a brother, a benevolent man has no hate, no anger, but only affection and love. King Shun appointed Shang as Prince of Yupai. Nowadays we have the story of a man who sent bombs through the postal service and caused many deaths. His elder brother denounced him, and he was put in prison for his whole life. King Shun and this brother, who is straight. Straight does not mean conforming to law, but conforming to the way. The way is benevolence, and benevolence begins with filial piety and brotherly obedience. Law and the way, which is more precious? Nowadays people abandon the way and follow law. They forget that law is often the weapon of evil of a class of persons. See husband and wife. In the time of Confucius, human society came to the point that it was organized with the family as the basic element of society. According to Confucius, the regulation of the family is a fundamental duty. Mencius says, that male and female should dwell together, is the greatest of human relations. The relation between husband and wife is at the making of the way. The way of the superior man is found, in its making, in the relation between husband and wife, but in its utmost reaches, it shines brightly through heaven and earth. So, the way of husband and wife is also the beginning of the way. The way of husband and wife is the harmony between husband and wife, and from there the harmony in the family. The way of the superior man may be compared to what takes place in traveling. When to go to a distance we must first traverse the space that is near, and in ascending a height, when we must begin from the lower ground. It is said in the book of poetry, happy union with wife and children is like music of lutes and harps. When there is concord among brothers, the harmony is delightful and enduring. Thus, may you regulate your family, and enjoy the pleasure of your wife and children. The Master said, in such a state of things, parents have entire complacence. D. King and official. Who is a king? A king is a man who governs a state, or the empire. Who is a king's servant or an official? An official is a man who helps a king in governing a state. What is the purpose of governing a state? To govern a state is to look after happiness of the people. Therefore, the people are the most important. Mencius said, the people are the most important element, the spirits of land and grain are the next, the sovereign is the lightest. So, the relation between a king and an official must be founded in governing a state. To govern a state is to look after happiness of the people. And to look after happiness of the people, the state must be governed by the way and not by profit. Right at the beginning of the Mencius told King Hui of Liang not to talk about profit, but to talk about benevolence and righteousness in governing the kingdom. One king towards official. The king's obligation towards his official is seldom talked about. An official is a man who helps his king to practice the way in governing the state. Even he is king, the sovereign should relate to his official in accordance with the rules of propriety. The sovereign should employ his officials in accordance with the rules of propriety. Confucius left the position of an official because the king did not treat him according to the rules of propriety. The Mencius says clearly that the king must act according to propriety. Duke Qin of Qi, once, when he was hunting, called the forester to him by a flag. The forester would not come, and the Duke was going to kill him. With reference to this accident, Confucius said, "The determined officer never forgets that his end may be in a ditch or a stream, the brave officer never forgets that he may lose his head." What was it in the forester that Confucius thus approved? He approved his not going to the Duke, when summoned by the article which was not appropriate to him. Right summon is summoned by a skin cap. The king must have confidence in his official because that is the condition for an official's work. When those in inferior situations do not possess the confidence of their superiors, they cannot retain the government of the people. This confidence goes together with respect. The king should govern by benevolence. Governing by benevolence lies in, first, choosing good and talented men. To choose good and talented men, the king must first respect them. Mencius has a paragraph in which the king's respect to his officials rose to the point he did not dare to summon them. Therefore, a king who is accomplished great deeds will certainly have ministers whom he does not call to go to him. When he does not honor the virtuous and delight in their way of doing, to this extent, is not worth having to do with. The king must think that he and his officials belong to the same house and love them as his body. Mencius said to King Xuan of Qi, when the king regards his ministers as his hands and feet, his ministers regard their king as their belly and heart. When he regards him as his dogs and horses, they regard him as any other man. When he regards them as the mud and grass, they regard him as a robber and enemy. 2. Official towards king. An official's duty towards his king is discussed at numerous places. The main point is that an official should, 1. Respect his king and, 2. Be loyal to him. Respect and loyalty are the way to serve or obey the king. The superior man, when he serves his superiors or his king, shows respect. The master said of Tzu-chan that he possessed 4 virtues of the superior man's way. He conducted himself respectfully, he served the king reverently, he provided for the people beneficently, he employed the people reasonably. To revere the king is to serve him with full propriety, even though it can be considered flatting. The master said, "He who serves the king in full propriety is considered by others as a flatterer." Confucius himself always showed reverence towards the king. If he was in front of the king, he acted respectfully. The Analects says, the officials should serve the sovereign with loyalty. An official must devote his life in the service of his king. In serving his sovereign, he can devote his life. The Analects says, when Zolu asked how to serve the sovereign, the master said, "Do not deceive him, but you may confront him." However, an official respects his king and is loyal to him only when his king keeps his duty, that is to govern by benevolence. In other words, his respect and loyalty are founded on the way. So, if his king does not govern by benevolence, if his king takes a wrong way, how should an official conduct himself to be considered respectful and loyal to his king? An official should revere his king only if his king respects him. If his king does not respect him, an official can conduct himself as in the above-mentioned statement. Mencius said to King Xuan of Qi, when the king regards his ministers as his hands and feet, his ministers regard their king as their belly and heart. When he regards him as his dogs and horses, they regard him as any other man. When he regards them as the mud and grass, they regard him as a robber and enemy. That an official is loyal to his king does not mean that he does whatever his king wants, but it means he knows how to direct his king into the way. To urge one's sovereign to difficult achievements may be called showing respect for him. To set before him what is good and repress his perversities may be called showing reverence for him. To say that one's sovereign is incompetent to this, may be said to play the thief with him. An official serves his king, but he serves him only based on the way. Qi Zijian asked, "Can Cheng Yu and Jan Chu be called great ministers?" The master said, "Sir, I thought you have something else to ask." "So, you are asking about Yu and Chu?" Those who are called great ministers use the way to serve the sovereign. If they cannot, they should then stop. Now, Yu and Chu may be called rank-filling ministers. Qi Zijian said, "Then, are they those who follow orders?" The master said, "In the event of patricide and regicide, they would not follow orders, either. An official has the duty to dissuade his king. If he cannot dissuade his king, he should step down." When Qi Shi is about to attack Chuan Yu, Jan Yu and Qi Lu went to see Confucius and said, "Qi Shi is about to take action against Chuan Yu." The master said, "Chu, are you not to blame for this?" Now, the lord of Chuan Yu was long ago appointed by a former king head minister of sacrifices for Mount Tung Meng. Besides, lying within the bounds of our territory, it is a vassal to the state. What reason do you have for attacking it?" Jan Yu said, "His Excellency wishes it." "Neither of us, his two officers, wishes to do so." The master said, "Chu, Zhou had a saying that goes, if you can contribute your ability, take your position, if you cannot, then stop. When a man is in danger, you cannot support him, when he is falling, you cannot steady him. Then, why should he employ you as his aides? Moreover, what you said is mistaken indeed. When a tiger or a rhinoceros breaks loose from the cage, or a tortoise shell or a jade ornament is crushed in the cabinet, whose fault is it? If a king is tyrant, his official has the duty to kill him." The Mencius writes, King Xuan of Qi asked, saying, "Was it so, Tang banished Qi, and that King Wu smote Chao?" Mencius replied, "It is so in the records." The king said, "May a minister then put his sovereign to death?" Mencius said, "He who outrages benevolence is called a robber, he who outrages righteousness is called a ruffian. The robber and ruffian we call a mere fellow. I have heard of the cutting off of the fellow Chao, but I have not heard of the putting of a sovereign to death." Friend and friend. Confucius likes friends very much. At the beginning of the Analects is the saying, "Is it not delightful to have friends coming from distant quarters?" Confucius sets friendship based on helping one another on the journey to the way. Zhengzi said, The superior man uses culture to meet with friends, he uses friends to promote benevolence. Therefore, the fundamental characteristic of friendship is truthfulness. Friends should be truthful. Zhengzi said, "Every day I examine myself in 3 counts. In undertaking business for others, have I failed to do my best? In associating with friends, have I failed to be trustful? In transmitting something, have I failed to practice it myself?" The criterion of truthfulness is the way. Friends should help one another in practicing the way. One should be truthful in bringing the way to friends. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles. Have no friends not equal to yourself. Friendship is based on virtue, not on social position, wealth, or age. In ancient times Meng Xianzi had 5 friends because he loved their virtue, and they came to him because of his virtue, not owing to his wealth. Confucius advises to choose friends. The master said, "The types of friends are beneficial, 3 types of friends are harmful. To befriend the upright, befriend the truthful and befriend the erudite is beneficial. To befriend the excessive respectful, befriend the obsequious and befriend the glib-tongued is harmful." The master said, "Unable to find a man of the mean to associate with, I must content myself with the high-minded and the principled. The high-minded forge ahead, and the principled refrain from doing wrong things." Therefore, Confucius is afraid of those who can be harmful to the travel to the way. However, when one has attained to the way, to befriend the non-virtuous is an occasion to bring them back to virtue. When one of Zhu Shao's pupils asked Zhu Chang about making friends, Zhu Chang said, "What did Zhu Shao say?" The pupil replied, "Zhu Shao said, those who are good enough, associate with them, those are not good enough, reject them." Zhu Chang said, "This is different from what I have heard. The superior man esteems the worthy and tolerates the multitude, he praises the good and sympathizes with those who are incapable. If I am eminently worthy, what men can I not tolerate? If I am unworthy, others will reject me. How can I reject others?" 8. Why benevolence? Why is bright virtue benevolence? Bright virtue is highest goodness. Highest goodness is happiness, peace. What is the relation between benevolence and happiness? The opposite of benevolence is hatred, and the opposite of happiness is suffering. The Buddha calls this world Mara. For Jesus this world is the devil, and according to Confucius there is no such a case as an inferior man who does a benevolent thing. In summary, man's heart contrives nothing but wicked schemes all day long. Therefore, there is always a reason for hatred. It seems that we are unable to stop hating. But when we are in hatred, are we in suffering? The answer is yes. When we hate, we suffer. The person whom we hate is suffering or not, that is what we do not know. Maybe we could not sleep the whole night, and maybe he fell in a sound calmness. We are the first victims of hatred. Benevolence is loving men. Do we suffer when we are in love? The answer is no. When we are in love, we are happy. So, we love men, particularly enemies, not only because of them, but first because of ourselves, because we want to live happily. It is very hard, if not impossible, for us to love men, particularly enemies, if we think only of them and not of our own happiness. So, benevolence brings highest goodness, happiness, peace, first to us, and then also to others. Benevolence is the key to open the door to the pacification of the world. Chapter 2. The characteristics of the way as benevolence. We have talked about the characteristics of the way as heaven earth spirit God. These characteristics are also applied to the way as benevolence. However, because benevolence is the way in human life, it has more characteristics. 1. True. Confucius expresses himself in many statements. We do not see him go from argument to prove that his statements are correct or true. However, these statements are not invented by Confucius' head. They are founded on the truth Confucius sees, feels, or experiences. The truth is above Confucius. The truth appears to Confucius. And Confucius sees the truth appear to everybody. Confucius calls the truth the way. Confucius' statements are founded on the truth that is called the way. So that the truth or the way becomes clearer, we have distinguished two realities in a thing, material and the way. Material and the way are two different realities, and they appear at the same time to make a thing. In the perspective of our discussion, a thing is also used to call a man. We use the word twofold to express the fact that a thing is composed of material and the way. The twofold appears to everybody. But people do not see it. Lao Tzu saw it, too. The Buddha saw it, too, form, material, and nothingness. Jesus saw it, too, this world and the kingdom of heaven. They did not use the word twofold because in their time human language did not come to that point. We need to make a distinction between Confucius' truth and the truth of physics or science in general. Science is a study on material. People have come to one or several tiny elements that constitute material, and they have come to one or several principles of the constitution of material. They have come to the discovery of the origin of the creation of this universe. This truth is the truth about material. This truth does not relate to the existence of man. This truth exists with man or without man. The theory of the black hole is correct with or without man. Confucius' truth does not relate to material. His truth concerns the way. The way is the way of man or the manner of existence, being, of man. Without man there is no way. Science does not know the way, because the way is different from material. Science is not above philosophy and philosophy is not above science. They have different domains. Science does not need to imitate philosophy and philosophy does not need to imitate science. Too good. Two realities that constitute a man are the body and the way or benevolence. The way or benevolence can be called mind, heart, or spirit. Ordinary people think it is the body that constitutes a man. The body brings in itself desire, and desire is greed for material. Profit is the word that is used to denote material of the greed. Confucius sees that it is the way that is the main element that constitutes a man. The Buddha says that the full body or the 32 marks do not constitute the Tathagata. What is different from the body constitutes the Tathagata. That does not mean that they deny the body. As a human being, a man needs a body. But the body must harbor the way so that a man is a man. The way is the main element that constitutes a man. Seeing so, Confucius goes to look for the way, with the purpose to make man be, true, man. The way is not something fixed. Men are different because the way is different in each man. Mencius says, a man who commands desire is called a good man. Desire is the body. When Mencius talks about commanding desire, he aims to say that desire is not the element that constitutes a man. Regarding the essence of man, desire does not constitute a man. It is the way that constitutes a man. Mencius quotes, Confucius says, there are but two ways, benevolence and non-benevolence. The word way in this sentence denotes the way we follow, it does not denote the way as true way. Jesus says that no one can serve two masters, we must choose this world, money, or the kingdom of heaven, the way. This world cannot be benevolent and righteous, virtuous, this world can only be non-benevolent and non-righteous, non-virtuous. Karl Marx is ignorant when he wants to build a righteous world that is based on material. Benevolent is good and unbenevolent is evil. The way is called good because it constitutes the essence of man. Desire is called evil because it does not constitute the essence of man. The way, the true way is good. The way appears as good. In the bottom of their heart, people love the way, people love the way like water flows to the lower place. Therefore, we cannot serve two masters. If we want to become good, we have to command our desire. 3. Beautiful. Mencius says, he whose goodness has been filled up is what is called a beautiful man. The beautiful is the beautiful of the way. The way, the true way is called beautiful. It is beautiful because it makes a man be man. The Queen of Beauty is the most beautiful lady because she most represents the female characteristic of ladies. Because desire destroys the essence of man, it is called evil. Of course, Mencius talks about the beautiful in the way or spirit, not about the beautiful in the body. 4. Tranquil, resting. Tranquil is resting or stopping. The Great Learning says, to rest on the highest goodness, the nation of 1,000 li is where the people rest, the twittering yellow bird rests on a corner of the mound. In the Book of Poetry, it is said, profound was King Wen. With how bright and unceasing a feeling of reverence did he regard his resting places. As a sovereign, he rested in benevolence. As a minister, he rested in reverence. As a son, he rested in filial piety. As a father, he rested in kindness. In communication with his subjects, he rested in good faith. Resting or stopping because it is the place of the highest goodness. When mind attains to the highest goodness, it is determined, it rests or stops at that place. Having determined the purpose of learning, the learner acquires tranquility in his mind. Tranquility means no more restlessness, no more meddlesomeness of wondering about the purpose of learning. Learning does not aim only at food and clothes. Learning aims at servicing the people. Learning is to bring the highest goodness to the people. When mind knows that, it becomes tranquil. That is tranquility of the way. Desire or profit does not lead to tranquility. One does not rest with desire, one wants this and then that and so on. 5. Peaceful. When mind is tranquil, it becomes peaceful. The great learning says, to that tranquility there will succeed peacefulness. Peacefulness indicates calmness, ease, serenity. The way brings calmness, security, peaceful life. The learner of the way aims at bringing peaceful life to the people. The peaceful life of the people resides in the highest goodness. Mencius says, benevolence is the peaceful habitation of man. Desire does not lead to the peaceful habitation, greed is unfathomable, people always desire more and more. 6. Happy. The way does not come to destroy life, it comes to bring happiness to life. If this world is hell, the way is paradise. If this world is an ocean of suffering, the way is nirvana. The way brings paradise, nirvana, happiness in this very life. The Master said, eating coarse food, drinking plain water, and bending one arm for a pillow, happiness also lies therein. Wealth and rank acquired through unrighteous works are to me like floating clouds. The Master said, the superior man is satisfied and composed, the inferior man is always full of distress. The Master is gentle yet dignified, majestic yet not fierce, respectful yet peaceful. The Master said, the man of wisdom is free from delusion, the man of benevolence is free from anxiety, the man of courage is free from fear. It is said in the book of poetry, happy union with wife and children, like music of lutes and harps, concord among brothers, that harmony is so delightful. Thus, may you regulate your family and enjoy pleasure with your wife and children. The Master said, in such a situation, parents have entire complacence. Honor virtue and delight in righteousness, and you may be perfectly satisfied.